So guys, I had a very long, probably like an hour-long video of me sharing my testimony about how I got my apartment, and it just wasn't working. Like my phone wouldn't save. There were like a lot of issues with it. So I am just going to do a voiceover and add it to this video and give you some of like the key points of that experience and how the Lord like helped me through, or helped me to get the place. So the reason that I moved out was because some things had gotten a little like tense at home, because I think I was just at that age where, I think it happens at different ages for different people, but I was 23 and I was at that age where I kind of wanted to be treated like an adult, but didn't really know how to navigate that, and which resulted in me eventually like lashing out in a way that I typically wouldn't have. And because I honor and respect my family and my home, I knew that it was time for me to move out. And also, the Lord had already told me a week prior that it was time for me to move, but because I didn't feel ready, I disobeyed. I told him no. I wanted to do it my way. I wanted for the perfect conditions. I wanted to have all my money and all those things, all the things that you typically would think would be required for a door to open. But in actuality, the Lord had different plans, and he was actually trying to do something for me. And so after visiting a friend's home, her apartment, I fell in love with it. Like I loved the way that it looked. I felt like it was just so like reasonable, and she told me the price and it was really affordable. So, I told her that I was gonna inquire with her landlord of if there were any openings. Her rent price was really low, and I had already been like into budgeting and things like that, and I had already written down some dreams that I had for the year, and her rent was in the ballpark of the budget that I had wrote for myself. So I went to speak to her landlord, and come to find out the rent was about $400 higher than I anticipated. So I decided that I was going to look elsewhere and just find a cheaper apartment, because I knew that I needed to be out of my house, but I just didn't know if I could afford paying an additional $400 from the price that I had already set in my budget. And that same friend was like, well, you should just apply and I'll pay for your application fee. So if you get denied, then, you didn't really lose anything, but you should just apply. And some of the other stipulations of the application were that I had to have a 700 credit score, and the pay first and last month's rent, and the security deposit, and all these different things. And I didn't even have the money. I was literally just functioning like on like pure, unadulterated faith and obedience to God. And it didn't make sense to me because I didn't feel qualified. And so because she was willing to pay for my application fee, I was like, why not? And the Holy Spirit whispered to me at work one day that when I turn in my application, I should write a letter to the manager of the apartment building, giving them some clarity about my situation and being honest about it, and how in need I was for this apartment building. And so I took my friend Niam with me to deliver the application and to deliver the letter. And as we were walking by the particular apartment building that I wanted, her and I both prayed. Like we prayed over the apartment and declared it to be mine. And she was like, wow, my hands are hot. Like, this is your apartment. This is literally your apartment. And I honestly didn't have the faith to believe it, but I kind of just leaned on her faith because I was underqualified, but I knew I had heard from the Lord. But everything was just so confusing because I just didn't feel like I was worthy of, the apartment building. And I will say that I did make up with my family rather quickly. literally the next day we reconciled, but I knew that it was still time for me to go, because had I obeyed God in the first place, then some of those things wouldn't have come to a head. And so in the week of waiting for the approval for the apartment building, I was still going to look at other places, because like I said, I didn't think that I was going to be able to get it. And so on the way to the first apartment complex, I think I had like an hour to spare before they were closing. I was on the freeway, and this had actually never happened to me before, but my tire literally exploded on the way to the apartment building, and I had to reschedule, and I couldn't go see it. And the lady was really accommodating, but I couldn't go to the apartment building because my tire was busted. And so we rescheduled for the next day. And the next day, on the way to the apartment building, I got into a fender bender. And it wasn't a bad one, but it was just like, wow, like, why am I getting into so many like car issues trying to get to this apartment building? And so after that, I just like gave up on that like whole idea, but I did keep browsing at other apartments because I just really didn't think that I was going to get it. And in the midst of that, I talked to my mom about me not having the funds to even move into the apartment, and me not knowing how I was going to be able to move in without the money. And miraculously, she was just like, I'll give you $1,000 towards your apartment. And that had never happened before. So I was like, okay, God. And I knew that I hadn't applied for my income tax. And then with that additional $1,000, I was like, oh, this may actually happen. But I still needed more money, but I didn't know that at the time. And so while at my mom's house, I think I either spent the night or something happened where she ended up the next morning backing into my car and messing up like the rear side of it. And I wasn't upset at this point because this was the third car incident that I had gotten into, and I was able to like accurately depict that this is some type of warfare that's happening. And I was just like, Lord, if I'm going to be going through all this and my car is going to be getting destroyed, at the least, can you just, I hope that I'm getting this apartment. Like, I have to be getting this apartment. And so, then, I eventually got approved for the apartment, and I was so excited, but I found out that there was like an additional $2,000 that I needed. Like over $1,000 that I needed to be able to apply to pay for the security deposit, because I had to pay first and last month's rent, which was estimated to be around $1,300, and I had to pay for a security deposit. And so, I think it was like over $1,000, like I said. And so I had the money from my mom. I had the money from my income tax. And then I just had to come out of pocket to pay the rest. But luckily I had just switched from part-time to full-time at work, so I actually had the money. And all in all, I ended up getting approved for the apartment after getting into so many car incidents and all of these different things. And it was just a really, like, looking back, it's just really like a monumental experience, because it was just such a crazy time. Like, so many things were happening at once. And I honestly didn't think that I was going to get it, but the Lord saw fit for me to have it. And I completely understand why that was now that I'm looking back at it, because in the midst of that time, I was going through a lot of transitions, and I was switching churches. I had just, like I said, switched from part-time to full-time at work. I had just gotten out of school. I'd only been out of school for less than a year. And so despite all that was happening, had I not moved into this apartment, I wouldn't have been as planted as I could have been and been able to benefit from the new ministry that I was at, because the area in which I moved, although it was near to my school, more importantly, I moved into the vicinity of a lot of my church members, and they all lived, our church was in San Bernardino, and all of them, but there was like a crew of LA people who lived minutes away from where I had moved to. And I ended up building very like fond relationships with them, and I have benefited from them so greatly. And even in living in this apartment, I have been able to house people and just learn so much about God and like him as father and him as provider. He was able to restore and strengthen some of my familial relationships. I made new friends. There was just so much that came from me moving into this little space. And I think had I not been here, I wouldn't have experienced the supernatural growth that came from this leap of faith that I kind of was coerced into. So that's just the brief, very lazy version of the story, because I am frustrated with the fact that the video that I first filmed didn't post, but that's neither here nor there. And I hope that you guys get a kick out of this, because it's not the way that I intended for you all to hear the story, but I still want the story to be told because I think it's worthy of being told. And I hope that it inspires other people to step out on faith, and hopefully to see the vindication of the Lord, because when he says that you're qualified to do a thing, or he wants to open a door for you, your qualifications really don't matter. He will soften the hearts of men. He will provide for you supernaturally, and he'll do it on his own timeline. Okay, guys, here is the final product. Here is the finished look. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and if you made it this far, then you a real one, and I truly appreciate you. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things that you would do at your leisure in the comments. And I hope this video was encouraging. I hope that it blessed you, and more importantly, I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year, because it is New Year's Eve, and I can't wait to see what 2021 has to offer, because 2020 she if this was a fight, 2020 did what needed to be done. Like, I ain't gonna say that she won, but she held her own. She for sure, she got hands. 2020 got hands for sure. So, yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.